What's up, everyone? It is your resin 3D printing god, Akuma Mods, checking out the Revopoint MIRACO scanner. Is this the new hot ticket item? I think it might be. Let's check out our review of the MIRACO scanner. So the folks over at Revopoint were kind enough to send us a review unit. Now, I say this is a review unit because technically it is a prototype in a way. Let me explain. There are 3 versions that are going to be out there in the wild. There is version 1, which was to early backers, people who have worked with Revopoint before, and then there's people like me who reached out and asked and got into the second backing batch. This is version 2. Now, the production unit is going to be the third and final version. You know, obviously, number 3, the best of the best. However, this pretty much is exactly what you guys are going to get with some slight changes to the camera here. That's really about it. And then the other thing is these are 16 gig modes that we were given. Now, I will tell you that even with the 16 gig mode, they are still perfectly fine. I have had almost no issues with stuff loading, having issues like backing up as a normal scanner would. I've never had those type issues so far. Now, obviously, as software updates go, because this does have OTA abilities, that might possibly change down the line as they add more information into the system. Who knows? But as of right now, the 16 gig does just fine. But if you're somebody who's kind of a little worried about that and you just more or less want the big bang, you can go with the 32 gig version and have no problems with it. Now, with that being said, if you are a backer of previous Revopoint scanners on Kickstarter, I have been told and have said on the actual Kickstarter that they are going to automatically upgrade you to a 32 gig mode if you are a previous backer of their other scanner. So if you did the Inspire, the Pop, whatever it may be, you will automatically be eligible to upgrade to a 32 gig model if you purchase a 16 gig. So that is fantastic. Never have I heard a company doing such a tremendous thing. That is insanely awesome of them. So without further ado, keep me from talking, and let's go ahead and boot this thing up. First, let's show off a little bit here, and you guys can see a little bit of glossy. Now, me personally, I think if this was a matte finish, it would probably be a little bit better, because it is very fingerprinty. It is insanely crazy with the fingerprints. I don't know if I can get that in there or not, but you might be able to see some of the fingerprints. That's just my one gripe about this entire unit. So, it's a minor thing at best, but hey, it is what it is. So, let's go ahead and check out the back here. We do have, I believe this is a 7-inch screen, and it is a very, very large screen as well. It might actually be 5. I'll have to look into that, but I've never really looked into the spec of the screen, to be honest, so I'm just kind of spitballing here, so my apologies if I got it wrong. But one of the cool things is you can tip this up and do a selfie mode, so we can essentially scan what you guys are looking at, and it'll look real creepy, I'm sure, because I've scanned this face and it came out real creepy. Not that I'm creepy or anything, but I'll let you decide. Anyway, let's go ahead and boot this thing up. There is a little power button on the side here. We're going to hold that down for a couple seconds, let it go. And this is updated to the latest version, at least from last week, I want to say. So we do get a nice little splash screen here, and then we also get the nice splash screen here as well. And we're right into the software automatically. Now, this is set, I believe this is still set in near mode, and all your information is right here. You do have 2 different cameras and a third camera right up front here. So if we wanted to go ahead and take a quick picture of me, I can do 2 different types of modes. I can do continuous, or I can do a single shot. So I'm just going to do a single shot, and we're going to try and get this off. But here's the thing. Let's say I'm trying to do this. Well, guess what? That's what this mode is for. It's a selfie mode. So I can go ahead and capture everything that is going on the cell phone right here and everything on my workspace. So that's what's really, really cool about that. But we're just going to do this crazy style, right? But the other cool thing is there's a release button or trigger button, much like a camera, right on top here for the selfie mode. So if you're not somebody who likes to use the digital pads, that's perfectly fine. There's a physical button here. So we're actually going to use that and see how it is. So as you can see, we are right in the range of my face. And I'm just going to do a singular shot. And there we go. So now we have a singular shot right there. It's not the greatest. We can definitely take multiple shots and mesh that as best as we possibly can. Now again, in full transparency, because this is a beta mode, none of the LEDs that are on here to flash and make sure that everything is good for lighting effect is not enabled on this unit. Okay, they disabled it because there were some issues with the first batch of them, version 1, and they didn't want overheating issues, so they disabled it. Now I can go in and enable them myself, but I'd have to do a little bit of wiring and jumping things. I'm not going to do that. I will say that will be fixed in the final version. So don't even worry about, oh my God, it's not going to work the way that it wants to. No, it's going to work 100% once it goes into full-on production. They are actively working on all the bugs on the system. I've been working with them as well as several other people to iron out all the little bugs. And we'll go through at least one of them that I found on here that kind of irks me a little bit. Might not irk everybody, but for me it's a slight nagging thing. But again, we'll get into that. So on the top here, you have all of your distance scanning. So this basically tells you how far or how close you are to the model. And as you can see, the closer I get to this scanner, that bar moves left to right to tell you whether it's good or bad for the scanning. And again, you can also change this to far mode over here on the left-hand side, right next to the two cameras, and make it a little bit further away from you. Well, it would be further away here instead of right up close. So you can have further area. Now, I will tell you that the limitations of this is about 300 millimeters, so it's not anything spectacular. And really, any scanner sub $3,000 is pretty much going to be within that range anyway. Most scanners that I've seen are really around that range. I mean, even the ones that are like $10,000 scanners. Now, you can get some really fancy ones, but we're talking about things that are sub $1,500 retail price after the whole Kickstarter thing goes away. But essentially, I wanted to show you guys all that information, and there are different settings right here. And what these do, we can click on this. So then it says base removal on. So if we're basically scanning something that has our little base, because this does come with a little rotating base, we can take that and it'll automatically remove it. Then this one, this is your scanning range. So actually it looks like they upped it for the far mode. So it goes from 300 to about 1200 now. So they have advanced some stuff on it. And again, that is very, very far. So I'm basically like an arm's length away. I don't know if that's 1200 or not, but that's pretty far distance. Now, obviously, because it's just a small camera, you still do have a certain area of feed. So if you're looking to do large projects for this, this might not be the greatest thing for you, but you can do multiple scanning just like a regular 3D scanner, and that's what the continuous shot is like your regular 3D scanning setup. Then we have the color mode, which you can basically turn off the color. You're not going to see it in this shot because we haven't basically processed it or anything like that. And then we have the XYZ, I believe this is. So the orientation. So this basically, like if I put it there, it should automatically orientate right back. So that's just basically center orientation right there. So since we have the single shot, we're going to go ahead and click this red button right here. And there we go. There's my scary face. I look very angry. I kind of look like someone who would be a Klingon almost. So if we zoom in a little bit here, and I know it's kind of hard to do this with the camera angle I'm at, but if we zoom in here, you can kind of see all the little pixels that go into making up what that picture is. And just to think, that's just a singular picture. That's nothing like crazy, like a continuous shot. Like I can go closer to my face and get like some shots here. I can turn that into farther and mesh it again and get all the farther spots. I can do all kinds of mixing and matching onto things. It's real crazy what you can do with this because this has all of the Revopoint software integrated inside of this little unit here. Now, battery life, they're boasting about, I think it's 5 hours for the entire time on that. I know that they are playing around with the settings on that to optimize it as best as they can to try and get it up to 8 hours of battery. But don't quote me on that. It seems like that's still something kind of in the works. So, actually, I'm sorry. It's up to 2 hours of continuous scanning. I thought it was 5. I might have been thinking of the previous thing that they were working on. But anyway. So up to 2 hours of scanning. My apologies for that. And you can basically scan everything in here and do all of your work right inside of the system itself. So now that we got all of our scan together, we're going to go ahead and click mode. And this is where it'll give us all the information to mesh this model into a 3D object, STL, whatever you're going to export it as. Now, I'm just going to do the typical one-tap solution, and that's just like super simple. Everything's automatic on it because I'll be completely honest. All this stuff is absolute gibberish to me. Straightforward with you guys. Like, I barely know anything about 3D scanners on this, and now you're probably saying, well, what the hell are you doing, reviewing a 3D scanner? Well, I saw this at the East Coast Rep Rat Fest, and I instantly fell in love with it. Asked them to send me one. They did, and I've had a fantastic time scanning some objects with this, and it's just super simple to use. So even if you don't know what you're doing with a 3D scanner, this one tap will do most of the work that you need, and then obviously you'll still have to export the model and put it into your design program, fix it up a little bit, because not all 3D scanners are going to scan what you need to right out of the gate. So, but basically, I'm talking here, and it's pretty much already getting it all set up. And like I said, this is only a 16 gig model, so this is pretty impressive. Now, as you can see, it's not 100% of a scan. You can see, like, the lighting on my nose there is kind of like, it cuts my face up, so I look like a horror movie, right? But here's the crazy thing. Let's say we take the color off of it, and there's our mesh and everything that's all done. That's a pretty good scan. And in fact, this one even got my eyeballs, like my pupils. You see that? That's crazy. That's crazy, man. So that's a first. I'll be honest, I haven't taken a face shot of myself that close. So that's pretty impressive that it got that, because in this lighting area is not that great. I just have my shop light right above me, and that's basically it. We don't have anything else fancy. Like, we don't do anything fancy here, at least not yet. We don't have the money for that, okay? So we just do what we do, and that's it. So pretty impressive right off the bat for not having any LEDs available here to help out with that scanning and get the proper skin tones and the shot that it needs to, and that's exactly what happens here. You can see there's no lighting in this area. You can see how dark this area is on the shot, so obviously that's exactly what happened. Is it basically split the nose right in half because it didn't have any light to go in this area. So that's perfectly fine. It did exactly what it's supposed to. So in my opinion, it looks fantastic. Now, obviously, we can still clean up the model quite a bit. Again, you can utilize all of the sections here. You can use the fusion, you can use the mesh, you can do different textures on it. So you can basically change the entire model and modify it to whatever you need to. So once you click onto it, you can use the slider and basically have all of the information right there on how smooth you want it and how much you want to basically smooth out the model, get it the best options that you possibly can. Again, this is way over my head, so I have no idea what I'm exactly doing in here. So the one tap method is going to be working for me just fine. And if I need to, I'm not a designer, so I'll have somebody clean it up if I need to. But they'll have all the information that they need to know right at their fingertips on this. And this basically, you can send this via Wi-Fi to your computer, or you can directly connect it because it does connect via USB-C. That is another great thing about this. It does come with a 36 watt 36 watt charger, and it does charge very, very fast. So it does have quick charging on it. And I mean, it's probably like 3 hours to charge from a dead battery, essentially. So it does charge insanely fast, much like your cell phone does. So very, very cool that they included that type of charging capabilities, because for somebody who does a lot of scanning, you know, that might come in useful for you. Even more so if you have a battery pack, you could basically plug it directly into the battery pack and be good. So, but we're basically going to back out here and we're going to go back into our scan mode. And this will bring us back to the main screen. So as you can see, we are back into where we need to be and show my pretty face again. But we are going to go into some other options here. You can basically have the different accuracies. Now, we were doing this at a high accuracy. We can do standard accuracy, or we can do 16 frames per second. We can also do different features. So we have it on feature. They call it alignment, but it's technically features. So you can either choose feature or marker. Either one of those will work just fine. Obviously, the marker one is going to be the little dots that you use, and you basically put them on your face or your engine, whatever you're going to scan, and it'll scan that area. Especially if you have peaks and valleys that are hard to get around, that's really, really good to have. So, and then you have your typical object type, which is going to be general or dark. And then you can toggle the color mode on or off. So you don't necessarily need color on here if you don't want to. So you can basically disable a lot of stuff and probably save yourself a little bit of battery time if you're someone who knows how to properly use all of the extra options and whatnot. Over here, you can basically slide this over and that'll hide the two other cameras. So that way you don't have to worry about it, because I'll be honest, I can't tell you how many times on other scanners that I get involved with this stuff and I don't take a look at the main camera to see what's going on. My eyes always tend to drift over to the other cameras to look at it because they're straight up in like a straight camera. Whereas this is more or less like it's gonna find you type feature. It's really, it's like playing an old like Diablo or StarCraft or maybe even Warcraft. I don't know. I've never played that one, but where you basically find your pathway, essentially. That's what it does here. So this one is a lot easier because obviously it just shows the camera right here, right up front. And the same for this. It's just an infrared style camera. So these are a little bit easier to work with. You can also change the auto focus on these. So you can basically change the depth that they look at as well. And then you can also turn off the, or change the lighting function on it and the white balance and everything. And you can also turn off the lights as well. So like I have the lights on here, but again, they're kind of overload a little bit. So we keep them turned off, and that's basically where we keep it at right now. So, let's see what other things we can talk about. So one of the things that I wanted to point out that I'm kind of working with them, and I hope that they update it, at least in the production model, is up here in the left-hand corner. It's kind of hard to see with the focus on my camera, but there is a Wi-Fi signal, and then there's a battery signal. So the battery obviously is going to tell you what percentage that battery is at, but it doesn't physically tell you the percentage. Now, me personally, on my phones and everything else, I have the actual physical percentage on there. So I'm not just guesstimating, hey, is this at 75% or is it at 85%? Because they are very close. Is it at 50% or is it at 60%? It's kind of hard to tell sometimes depending on where it's at. So I personally just like to have the actual physical number there. And that's one of the things that I've asked them to look into to try and change. I know that's nothing spectacular to a lot of people, but to me, that makes a world of difference because I can actually see how much battery life I actually have in a physical number. So it gives me a little bit more reassurance on it, on what I'm doing in terms of the scanner itself. So this is basically an Android-based phone in a sense. So we're going to swipe down here, and you'll see there's typical settings like your phone. You have your balance for your color, your brightness. You have your settings tab. You have your screen rotation. So you want to keep that clicked on because if you're going to do selfie mode, you're going to want that clicked on because it will not rotate. It'll actually be in this mode. And then when you flip it up, everything will be upside down. So you want to make sure that that's on. You have your WLAN or your Wi-Fi, whatever you want to call it. And then you have your storage. I'll get back to that in a second. You have a screenshot, which is really cool. So if you have anything that you have trouble going on, something's throwing an error, you can actually screenshot it and send it to Revopoint to have them take a look at. Or if somebody's having an issue with something, you could be like, oh, it's right over here, and you can screenshot that for them. So you can actually make this a little bit helping out. On top of that, they also did a screen recording, which is really, really cool because you could literally do tutorials on how to utilize the scanner for the best results for someone who's like me, who's completely new to 3D scanning. Well, I'm not completely new, but in terms of like all those settings that I told you, I didn't have a clue of really what to do with them. That's the type of stuff, if somebody wanted to teach me how to learn and how to actually gauge those a little bit better to get the best quality results out of that, they can go ahead and screen record this and physically walk me through that. I don't know about you guys, but I love stuff like that where it can basically show me what I need to do. Like, you can tell me till I'm blue in the face that this is what you need to do, this is where you need to go, that's the slider you need, and I'll probably get it, but it's much faster for me to get it if you show me exactly what I need to do. I am a visual person when it comes to learning, and that type of stuff, hands down, instant winner right there. So let's go back to the storage here, if it'll let me go on to here. I don't think it will, but so we'll go into the settings here, and I think it says storage space. Yeah. So on this model, now I can't confirm or anything on the production models, but they should be exactly the same. This has 256 gigs of storage. Now, for computer people, that might not sound like a lot nowadays, considering some of the things that take pictures and photos and stuff are very, very bloated because of 4K resolutions and whatnot. So when you take pictures, they're usually hundreds of megabytes sometimes, depending on what picture you're taking. Well, obviously, this doesn't do anything spectacular in 4K range or anything like that. So the pictures are pretty good. So far, I've used 22 gigs of that storage. So I have 92% of that storage available. And we'll go back in and show you guys kind of some simple shots that I've done. I haven't done anything like over crazy, but I basically just wanted to use some things here and there and see how the space would go on that. So again, you have your display set up here. You can do automatic locking within 10 minutes, or you can choose whatever you want to. You have your slider bar for your brightness. Again, that's the same thing. Your battery, your max capacity is at 100%. Availability, we have 89%. Now, going back to the whole thing, some people are okay with the battery icon. I'll just swipe down and go into my storage, and it'll tell me, yeah, you can go into the settings, and it'll tell you everything right there. But personally, I just like to see that right there in front of me. Going through a bunch of menus, just not my thing. Like, why can't I just have it right up close? It's a simple add-on feature, at least I think so. I don't know, I'm not a big coding person, But hey, you never know. And then we do have different languages here. It looks like we have Chinese, maybe Korean, and English. I'm not exactly sure. But there are three languages loaded on here. Is there going to be more that are going to be loaded on here? I'm not 100% sure on as of right now. That's something you guys would have to reach out to Revopoint and ask them to see if that's a possibility for them to add on more. I don't think it's going to be a big problem, but I'm sure they will have some people that need to translate some stuff just so it goes over smoothly. Then we have our WLAN information. That's basically all the info for our Wi-Fi. We have the date and time settings. Now you will have to set this up to make sure that everything keeps in sync. We have our USB preferences. So when you hook up the USB, you have different choices. Now, I will say that this comes with a USB-C to USB-C connection. So for some of those that have newer computers like myself, you guys will have an easy connectivity on that front. But for those who do not, either buy yourself a higher quality cable, or you can buy yourself a USB-C to USB-A, I believe it is, adapter, and you can plug it into your computer. Now, me personally, I haven't had any good results with those. And I have some pretty good ones myself, but I don't know. Maybe there's some better ones out there right now. Maybe I need a 3.0 because I think the ones that I have are actually 2.0 now that I think about it. So that might have been the issue. But I was able to connect this with the USB-C, and I was able to convert this and send all of my files to my computer. So if you don't like playing around in the software itself, you can actually send this to the computer and use the Revopoint Scan 5, and you can basically do all of your information and all of your processing on the computer itself if it makes it a lot easier, because I know some people just don't like, this is a really small screen to do processing in, but it's still kind of cool to do that right off the bat. So as you can see, there is a software update button, and it looks like we are updated to the latest software. And yeah, everything's good. So we're gonna go back into the basically the folders and go into our shots. And I'm gonna show you, at least on the picture that we just took, so you guys can see exactly what's going on here. I'm gonna go back into the raw data here. And as you can see, we have like a little bit of a straggler right here. So what's really cool about this is, like I said, you could basically do all of your editing right on here and have no problems with it. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the meshed. And as you can see, there's two options that pop up here. It says rectangle and lasso. Now, I'm terrible at grabbing stuff, so I'm just going to do the simple rectangle here. And I'm basically going to grab this part, and now you can see it's kind of selected. It's hidden by the delete button there, but I'm going to go ahead and delete that. And as you can see, part of it is gone. So we're going to try and do that again. Again, I'm terrible at this because there's a certain finesse about it. So here, let's see if we can move this a little bit and I can get a better view. There we go. So there's still those two little bits there. So I'm going to basically grab this. All right, so I grabbed all of the pieces that I possibly can. I think there's still just a little piece there. Okay, so now I grabbed all of the pieces, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to go ahead and delete. And there we go. All of our islands and everything, all of the background noise. So like if it captured this chair for some reason, you could basically remove it right on the tablet itself. It's really, really cool that you can do all that. And then obviously if we go back and we go ahead and we save that mesh, we can go ahead and keep the mesh as it is moving forward. Now I'm just going to let it be because this is just for review purposes. But essentially it's going to save it as is like that. So it's really, really cool that you can do some cool stuff like that. Now, I did have somebody ask me to do some hairline photos. Now, this one was kind of hard because trying to grab a photo from the top of my head without me being able to see anything is insanely hard. So I think it was this one or the next one. I forget which one it was. But I got one of them that I had my hairline go pretty good on it. Let's see which one. There we go. So this one, I think. Nope, that wasn't a good one. All right, so let's go back to that one that I just had. So we're going to go ahead and turn off the coloring here. Oh, we didn't edit that. Maybe I deleted that one. I'm going to one tap it really quick just so we can see. But essentially, you can see how quick this is to one tap a singular picture. Obviously, if you have a lot more data to process, if you take something that is like, if you're trying to do a whole head bust, it does take a little bit longer to process this. And obviously, if you do have the 32 gig mode, it will probably process a little bit faster than this. Again, these are the 16 gig versions, and they do work very well. This does have a 8-core 2.8 gigahertz processor, and it is able to capture up to about 10,000 frames, which is just mind-boggling. But again, you're going to be sitting there for a while to process this. So, in my opinion, I would move that file over to the computer and let it process it after the fact. So, let's go back into the mesh here and see if we can get it captured. No, this isn't the one that I'm looking at. I can't find that one that I had. Oh, there it is right there. Because it was zoomed in. That's why I couldn't find it. So I had somebody ask me to do my hairline because I do have darker hair. I have brown, but it's starting to get a little bit gray. So maybe it picked up some of the gray a little bit. But as you can see, it is very, very easy to capture all that hairline. But that doesn't mean that it's always going to transfer over into the actual scan. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this off, and you guys are going to see what the mesh has done. And you can see that the hairline has come in very, very well. And that's a darker hairline. Now, I'm not saying it's going to do like darker, blacker objects and stuff like that, very dark objects. It is very sensitive, just like every other scanner, on dark objects. That is why light is absolutely needed if you are going to try and scan something that is of a darker object. Not saying it's going to happen 100% of the way that you need to scan it, but it is a little bit harder. Now, if you do have dark objects that you need to scan, like let's say I needed to scan my mouse here, if I needed to scan that, obviously it's a black object and I have a black desk. I'm going to actually go out and buy some scanner spray, and it's a temporary spray that you spray onto whatever object that you are scanning, and that way it'll turn it, I think it's white or ivory, whatever color that you decide you want to choose. And there are several different ones out there. You can get them from different people. There are two that Revopoint suggests. One is like I think it's a half hour that it stays on there. And then there's another one that stays on there much, much longer. So you have two options for sprays if you're looking to scan darker objects or there's just not enough light in the area that you're trying to scan. So it makes it a lot easier for you to scan the object if it's in a much lighter color. More or less, if it's in a basically straight white object, it's going to scan something like this. Like, that's so much easier. And I'll show you how much easier it is, because one of the scans that we did was one of the busts that come with the Revopoint scanners. And really, I think it's every scanner that usually comes with those type of busts. So let's see if we can get that scan out here. All right. So this scan is basically, I think it's David, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know. I'm terrible with my my history type things, but this was a bust that I scanned, and basically I put it on the rotating table, and as you can see, it captured all of the little details of the hair and everything. It did a very, very good job of scanning everything. So I was very, very impressed with this, especially because I scan this over here, which I just have a singular light up there and then a light right over there. So the lighting on there is not even as good as what you guys are seeing right here. Like, it's much, much less. It's just to brighten up the area and not to get right down on here. So that's why I have this extra shop light here, so I can actually have some lighting going on here. It makes it much, much easier to do that. One of the other things that I wanted to try and scan was an arm, a hand. Now, I have a project in hand. I'm not going to tell you guys what I'm doing with it, but essentially, I need to scan this entire arm all the way up to my hand to try and use it as a kind of like a trophy in a way, but not a trophy, but a stand, a display, so to speak. And something's going to fit on that, so it's basically that's what I'm going to try and utilize it. So I wanted to scan my hand and see how it is. And as you can see, it scanned it pretty dang good. I am thoroughly impressed with this scan. Now, obviously, it was just a top scan. We didn't do a bottom scan. Now, as you can see, there's kind of a theme. I do the singular shots because, well, it's super easy to do all the mode and processing really quick. But I more or less just wanted to see how easy it is to use that singular process, because that's what really, really grasped my attention span while they were using this at Earth. Was they were just snapping people's pictures essentially like you would a camera, and you could pull up a facial recognition right there, and you can take somebody's face off. You guys probably know that reference. But yeah, really, really cool. And you know what? It turned out not too bad. It's definitely a usable scan that I can do, but obviously it's only partial of the scan. Now, at some point, I'm going to have somebody help me out and actually scan my entire arm to get this correct, but it worked very, very well. I was thoroughly impressed with the way that it did everything. So as of right now, it's doing pretty good. I am absolutely loving this. One other thing I wanted to show you guys. Some people had asked me about too much light or reflections, actually. So I know with reflections, there is some issues where it basically whiteouts the scan because that reflection is too much for the scanner to intake. And that does happen from time to time. I'm not going to lie to you guys. But I did scan some stuff at work, specifically this little guardrail here. Now, if you look closely, you can see these white specks here. Now, that is light directly beaming onto this beam. And this was just a straight up shot, just straight right there. No problem. And it pretty much grasped all of the information right there from the top. Now, obviously, it didn't grab all of it because, as you can see, the bottoms did not come through, but the tops did very well. And I only took one photo for this, and that was it. So I was very, very happy with the scan because it did transfer over the exact same way. And all of those lighting effects didn't have any issues transferring over. Now, obviously, there is some mesh missing from that. And what's the great thing about that is once I'm done scanning this, if I see that that mesh is mixing, I'll just start the scanner up again and mesh these two scans into one, and we can basically make a singular scan. And you can also couple this with other scanners, be it the Revopoints or other scanners. Probably the Revopoints would be best because, well, all the mesh is automatically loaded into the Revopoint scanner. Whereas if you did it with a different scanner, it's kind of like you got to import all the stuff, then try and mesh it. Might not work out that way. So let's just cancel the other scanners and just go with the Revopoint stuff. So if I wanted to pull out like my old Pop 2 or my range, which the range is going to get a huge array. So if I wanted to do that and mesh these all together and get finer details with this scanner and then my big details on the range, I can mesh this stuff all together and put it into the computer. So it's really, really cool. Or I could just do it on here and do a close mode, scan everything that I need to, and then do a far away mode so I can get a larger array. And that way I can scan everything that I possibly can and scan it and put it into one mesh. And that way it'll all come back together. One last thing I wanted to leave you guys with is this last scan. Again, it's kind of a shiny scan. Now, these are ice bins that we use at work. They hold dry ice, and we use them for medical equipment. Um, but this has a plastic wrap on it. And again, you can see exactly what I'm talking about with the reflection. Now, this is very, very shiny. You can see that this is all plastic wrap on this bin. Easily seen on this, okay? But what's really cool, let me see if I can do this from here. So we're going to change that, and it basically gets rid of that and goes right through and scans the actual piece that's right there. So again, was a couple shots. So this was actually a continuous shot. I didn't do all of it, but I did do basically a front face scan of this entire bin. And as you can see, it picked up all the little details on it, even the little boxes right here and all the little, indentations and everything. And this is a lid. So it got all underneath here and everything. So it's perfectly fine with the scanning, and it does what it needs to. Now, one cool thing about this is it does have a wrist strap. Now, as you can see, this one is going to be quite different than the one that you guys are going to receive with your unit. I have upgraded this. Now, the one that comes with the unit is pretty good. And we're going to go ahead and turn this off and just kind of talk about the unit itself. This one, the one that comes with it is pretty good. It is very nice looking leather strap and everything. But I didn't feel safe enough with it, to be in all honesty. And we've kind of told this to Revopoint. I'm not sure if they're going to change it or not. It's not a huge issue because it still does work. It just doesn't seem as good as I would like it to be. So I went out and I bought myself a paracord strap, and this is a center strap right here. So that is probably the only major downfall that I see of this product is there's not straps on the side here, but this does feel very nice. This is very grippy and rubberized and everything. So it does hold very, very well when you are scanning stuff. So it kind of feels like you're scanning with an old style, like Polaroid style camera. It's really, really nice. And if you don't want the strap on there, but I do highly suggest keeping it on there at all times, you can just remove the strap and utilize it as just a floating unit. But again, I just feel so worrisome that I'm going to drop this thing. And I don't want to be dropping something that, is well over $1,000. Most people don't like dropping their cell phones. They get a case for it. Now, with that being said, Revopoint is working on a case for this, and that is one of their Kickstarter goals. I don't remember if it was at 2,000 or 3,000, but let's take a look, and we'll tell you guys some information about this before I let you guys all go. This does have Wi-Fi 6. Like I said, it does have a 8-core, 2.8 gigahertz processor, and it does come in two different variations, a 16 gig and a 32 gig. Essentially, they're going to be the exact same unit, but they're just going to be two different types of RAM processing that you guys can utilize for faster processing if you want. It does have a 5,000 milliamp battery. I think that's where I was getting confused with the 5 hours and charging and everything. It's got a 5,000 milliamp battery, and again, that's good for up to 2 hours of continuous scanning, if I can think here. And it does come in at a weight of 750 grams. So it is a little bit on the chunky side, but it's weighted very good. It is very spread out throughout the entire things. And that's partially due because of the batteries being inside these two packs right here, weighting it out on both sides evenly very, very well. Now, again, there will be the ability to have a battery pack adapted to that if you wanted. Like, I always have an extra battery pack if I'm going to do streaming and whatnot. So it's always nice to have that type of stuff, and that just makes it a lot easier. So those 2 hour things, I'd say that's a minimalistic thing if there is going to be an issue, because there's always the ability to add on a battery pack to it. And I know some of these battery packs are just getting absolutely insane with how much power that they can send out there and hold. But yeah, if you guys are looking for the scanner and worrying about battery time, I don't think that's going to be an issue because again, I know it's adding on to it, but for another probably $60, you can get yourself a pretty nice battery pack out there, and it'll easily have the adaptive capabilities to add on double that battery time. So, if not triple, depending on how crazy it is, and because the community is basically shifting every single day with battery packs. I mean, they're just getting crazy insane. Now, just to go over the rewards that you guys can get with the Kickstarter, and again, I'm not going to say go ahead and get the Kickstarter, but I will tell you, out of all the Kickstarter stuff that I've done on reviews, this is probably one that you can write to the bank. It's not going to be an issue, I believe, because they've done it in the past. Pretty much, I think all of their scanners have been done on the Kickstarter campaign. All of them have been successful. This is a company that's definitely not going anywhere. They are pretty much set in stone. I don't think they'll ever go away from Kickstarter, in my opinion, either. So just be aware of that's probably going to be a continuation thing. But that's going to be a fantastic thing for them, that they have the ability to say, hey, we have done Kickstarters. They have all been successful. Nobody's had issues with it. So, definitely look into it. But going into this right now, as we're making this review video, and again, there's about 6 hours left onto this Kickstarter, so hopefully you guys see this in time. There is the early bird 16 gig for $844, and most likely this is not shipping included, so probably add on another, I don't know, $100 or so shipping, give or take, because it does have batteries in it, so it does require some special handling. You do have the launch special, which is $883. That is also a 16 gig RAM version. And then there's also the Kickstarter limited special, and that is $935. So that's if you don't have the ability to pledge all of those other ones and they're already sold out. Now, if you do want to go up to the 32 gig version, the early bird special is going to be $1,039 as of right now, and they have the estimated delivery date of December 2023. So that's basically going to be next month. So that would be awesome if they get it to you before Christmas. But as we all know, Kickstarter, that's very, very doubtful. But again, as far as I know, their history has been right on par with everything that they need to, getting these to the customers in the time frames that they have been. So I think that delivery date of December 2023 is pretty good. You do have the other one that's launch special for the 32 gig RAM. That's $1,087. Again, if you don't have the ability to get in on the early bird. And then there's also the Kickstarter limited 32. That's $1,151. And that's essentially at the highest price point. That's $1,151 for a MIRACO or MIRACO, however you want to say it. I call it MIRACO. For the scanner. So, and there is still quite a few of those left. So there's still quite a few pledges left. Now, obviously, all the super early birds are gone. Those are ones that are going to be there very early December. But essentially, you guys are ready to rock and roll for this. So, let's see. There are some stretch goals. So the $2 million stretch goal is the protective cover, and it looks like it's a rubberized cover, which essentially just covers all of the parts. I do still suggest a screen protector for this this model, just so you have that screen protected, because obviously the same thing with your phones. You want to make sure that everything's protected as best as you possibly can. And then if we get to the 3 million, well, I shouldn't say if Revopoint gets to the $3 million Kickstarter goal, they do have the messenger bag, which is really cool. I really don't think it's anything spectacular. I'll probably find something to fit that into, probably just my small backpack that I carry around. But it still would be kind of cool to see a specific Revopoint messenger bag out there that you can have the ability to scan it. But that's pretty much it, guys. If you got any questions, comments, concerns, go ahead and leave them down below. I will leave a Kickstarter link to this campaign. So if you guys are looking to get into this Kickstarter, please use that link. It's basically just a tracker to say, hey, this is who they sent over from this person's channel. It doesn't give me any kickback or anything. It's just more or less a tracker to see how well I did on my end to kind of sell you guys on this product, to be straight honest with you. But I mean, the product sells itself. It sold me instantaneously. Revopoint has continued